Alright, here we go. A few people have been asking me how I built certain parts of my gasifier and things like that, and I promised I'd make a video, a breakdown of each part, and how I built them, why I built them that way, and their functionality. And also I made a few changes. This gasifier here was built off the FEMA plans, but I did make a few of my own modifications just that seemed to make more sense to me. So when we get to those parts of the gasifier, I'll talk about that, why I made that modification, and how it's worked out, whether or not I do it again or what I change. So I guess we'll get started. The first thing I'd do if I were building a gasifier is determine what size of an engine I want to run on it. This gasifier was built for up to a 15-horse engine. I knew I wanted to run a generator on it, whether it be a small stationary generator or a mid-size or even larger portable generator. So 15 horses, about average for what I was going to be running, 15 and below. So according to the FEMA plans, there's a PDF that I have. It's a 92, 93-page PDF that has all the dimensions of the fire tube for diameter, for length, depending on what horsepower you want to run off of it. If anybody's interested in that PDF, I can email you a copy. Just send me your email address. And again, I don't know how many I'm going to get of these, so be patient. It won't happen overnight probably. But we'll get right into it. My name's Josh. I'm a welder and fabricator. My actual occupation is a millwright. I work at a wood mill. I'm Class 6 certified welder. I've been fabricating and welding. My dad taught me when I was 13, so I've been doing this well over half my life. Something I do for a profession. It's also something I come and do at home on the weekends for fun. So it works out when you enjoy your job. So we'll get started. Once you've decided what size of engine you want to run, that'll determine your burn tube length and diameter. FEMA recommends for up to 15 horse, your burn tube is going to be 4-inch inside diameter, 16 inches long. So the overall length will be 16 inches, 4-inch pipe. And that's exactly what this is. I picked out a 16-gallon grease drum for my outer gasifier housing. And again, in the FEMA plans, it doesn't have to be any specific size. So long as your burn tube is the correct size, this can be a 55-gallon drum, it could be, a 10-gallon drum. The outside diameter is unimportant, so long as your burn tube is correct. It could be square, it could be oval, shape does not matter. It'll still function the same. So start with, pick out your drum. You know what size your burn tube is going to be based on the horsepower you're going to run. Pick out your drum and or outside, whether it's a drum or not. The next step is going to be, you've got your burn tube diameter picked out. You're going to have to cut out a donut. That's what the stop plate is. It's just a donut of 1/8-inch steel. The outside diameter is the same as my barrel. The inside diameter is big enough to slip my fire tube inside of, and then I just welded right along the top here to attach the two together. That's all the burn tube is. It's a piece of pipe. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to need a shaker grate. Now, according to the FEMA plans, what they recommend is a stainless steel bowl. I went to Walmart and I picked up a 8-inch diameter stainless steel bowl. It ran me about $6, $7. This is going to be a gross misrepresentation of it. It's about the right diameter, but my bowl was, another third deep or so. So basically, I took that bowl, I brought it home, and I started drilling holes in it. I drilled 16th-inch holes, and I just started in a star pattern, and then I just followed that star pattern on up, and then in between those, I started drilling holes about 1/8 of an inch apart. In an 8-inch bowl, I ended up drilling 301 holes, 16th-inch holes in it. 16th or 8th? I believe it might have been 8th. Yeah, that sounds right, 8th. We'll go with that. And then in 3 positions, at roughly 120 degrees, I drilled, I want to say it was 3/8 holes. This bowl, and of course this is a gross misrepresentation of scale here, but this bowl, the bottom of the bowl, is going to hang about 1.25 inches. We'll do it this way so you can see it better. It's going to hang about 1.25 inches below the bottom of your burn tube, and it'll be suspended by chains. So, after you've picked out your bowl, you've drilled your holes, you're going to want to get some chain. This is going to be, again, a gross misrepresentation of scale. But we have some chain. You're going to take any old chunk of whatever you got, flat stock, pieces of whatever, and weld them in 3 positions to the side of the burn tube. Now that's a modification I made. The FEMA plans tell you to drill the holes in the top plate. And then you're going to attach one of these little eyes. It'll thread in there, and you can adjust the height of your bowl with that chain. Now, I didn't do that. The most important reason I didn't do that is because I did not want to drill holes in this sealed top plate and then have to silicone them, to be 100% sure it's airtight. I didn't like that idea. So to avoid drilling more holes and potentially creating air leaks, I just welded I used angle iron, but a chunk of flat stock would work fine. About 4 inches down from the top, I just welded these in 3 positions. They had a hole drilled in here that corresponds with the same diameter of whatever eyelet you're going to use. And that gets threaded in there, and then you'll have your shaker grate height adjustment. So, I've seen people use chain like this. I don't recommend it. I'm not telling you not to. I'm just saying it's weak. I don't know if you can see it very well, but the links are unwelded. They're just bent over. And I'm afraid if you were to expose this to heat and then you have a load of your wood on top of that shaker grate, I'm afraid that there's a highly likely chance that these could stretch, potentially open, and your gasifier fall apart. The chain I used is this right here. I don't remember exactly what diameter it was, but it's unimportant so long as that it's a fairly medium size and it has welded links. That's the most important thing to me, welded links. By sheer accident, this happened to be zinc coated, which made for a stinky burn the first couple of times, but I recommend just getting plain old mild steel chain, not zinc coated. So, to attach the chain to your eyelids and to your bowl, you could go out and buy expensive little screw together rings or whatever. I didn't do that. What I did was I took a standard 3/4 inch lock washer. I clamped it in my vise and I bent it open. So what we get is a 3/4 inch lock washer that is bent open. And it's very simple. You slip your chain on, you slip your eyelet on, you put it back in the vise, and you bend the two back together. Now what I did is after I bent them back together, I actually put a small bead of weld where the two halves met. It's unnecessary, but that's what you're looking at. So there's your chain height adjustment. And I did the exact same thing on the other end where it attaches to the bowl. Bent another 3/4 lock washer open, slipped on the chain. I had 3/8 holes drilled every 120 degrees, 3 spots, and I just slipped this through the bowl, bent it back over, and applied a small bead of weld. You wouldn't have to weld it again, but I just did because I have a habit of overbuilding things. So that's it. So your bowl is now suspended. You can adjust the height so that the bottom of your shaker grate or bowl is a 1.25 inches below the bottom of your fire tube, and there it is. The next thing that you're going to want to do, and a lot of people seem to have trouble with this, is the actual shaker mechanism. I'll show you how I built mine. It's basically exactly what the FEMA plans called for. And what I did was I took a small piece of pipe, about 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 inch slice off the edge of this pipe, and I welded that to the bottom of my shaker grate. Basically just a ring welded on there, and I'll show you why later. This is a representation, a small little scale model I built of my shaker assembly. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it apart and I'll show you. First thing I did was I took a bolt, a long bolt. This one's 1/4 inch. I think I actually used 5/16 in mine. The bigger the better, the stronger it's going to be. So, you know, whatever, 3/8, half if you want to. I took a piece of flat stock, I drilled a hole in it, I slipped my bolt through it, and I welded it on at the end. So this length, the longer, the better. You know, if this is 4 inches or 5 inches, you're going to have more torque to shake your grate with. But anyhow, longer the better. And then I just bent a hook on the end of it. Now the purpose of that hook is you've got the bottom of your bowl and you've got your little ring welded on there. This hook slips over the edge of that ring, so when you shake it, it agitates the grate. So the next step is to get a pipe fitting. This is, I want to say, a 1/2 inch by 4 inch nipple, pipe nipple, black iron, nothing special. 2 pipe caps screwed on the ends here. What I did was I drilled a hole directly in the center of each pipe cap, slightly larger than the diameter of whatever shaft you choose. You don't want it to be just have to beat it in with a hammer fit. You want it to fit loose. So it slips in here like that, and you can see it spins around. Now the other end of my shaker handle is another piece of that same flat plate. It's got 2 holes drilled in it, one for the diameter to fit loosely over your shaker rod. The other one is just a piece of bolt I cut off, double nutted on each side, and that's going to be your actual handle that you'll shake with. So, something really important. A lot of people have problems sealing this. This is basically right off the FEMA plans. So, what you do is you cut a hole in the side of your barrel, the outside of your gasifier drum, roughly the diameter of this pipe, this outer pipe. Now, this part's kind of critical. You've got to get this measurement remotely close. Wherever your bowl is going to hang, you want the edge of this to catch onto that little D-ring or that piece of pipe you welded at the bottom of your shaker grate. So, you know, if you're within 1/4 inch, it's going to work. It's not rocket science, but you got to put a little thought into it. So, you get this welded in there wherever that's going to put the edge of this in the right position. And that's going to change by drum diameter, it's going to change by shaker grate bowl diameter, everything's going to change, so there's no exact measurement to that. This is one of the important parts. After you've got this welded into your barrel, and you've got your bowl hanging inside there, and you've got your top plate sitting on there, and you got this connected to your shaker grate, your bowl, what you're going to do is this handle will stay off for the moment. What I did, and what they recommended doing, is I drilled a hole inside of this black iron pipe. Out on the outside, this would be protruding out from my barrel. After this is welded in, you got this tight, you got this sitting on the edge of your shaker grate, I use this hole, and I use orange high-temp RTV silicone. One thing not to forget, which I forgot in this description, coat this bolt with just a really thin layer of grease before you slip it through here. And what that does is it keeps the high-temp silicone from actually adhering to the center shaft, but it'll adhere to the outsides, the inside of the pipe, I should say. So anyhow, you fill this pipe up with orange RTV silicone until you see it squeezing out the end of this. You'll see it squeezing out. If you can see inside your gasifier, you'll see it squeezing out here. You go ahead and fill that pipe up full of orange RTV silicone until it comes running out this side, and then you let it sit a couple, 3-4 days. Come back to it, slip on your handle, and what I did was I welded my handle right out here, the shaft to the handle, and your shaker is complete, and it's 100% sealed. The grease keeps the high-temp silicone from adhering to the shaft, so it'll move easily, but it's a rubber seal, 1/2 inch diameter by however long your tube is, 4 or 5 inches. So that's how my shaker works. That's my shaker mechanism. That's right out of the FEMA plans. So that's basically the drum itself. you have to have ignition ports. You have to have a way to start the fire. And in the FEMA plans, what they call for basically, sorry about this, is just a piece of pipe that you drill through the outside drum, and you want that piece of pipe, after all this is hanging in there, your shaker grate's hanging in there, you want that piece of pipe to protrude and hang over the side of your shaker grate, roughly about 1 inch to 1.5 inches above your shaker grate. So when you light your fire, your whatever your startup may be, and you poke it through, it falls into your charcoal bed and ignites the gasifier. That's the FEMA plans. That's exactly what the plans call for. The bigger this pipe is, the easier it's going to be. I used, I want to say 1 inch on mine, and I wouldn't go smaller than 1 inch for an ignition port. I suppose you could, but I wouldn't. On mine, one of the designs I tried different. I have the standard FEMA ignition port back here, but I wanted to try something different. I wanted to, instead of just letting this hang over the side of my bowl, I actually drilled a hole in the side of my fire tube, about 1.5 inches above the top rim of my bowl, and I took my ignition port and I ran it all the way through the barrel, all the way up to my burn tube, and welded it to the burn tube. This was an experiment I wanted to try, and quite frankly, I'm very happy about that. If I were to build another gasifier, I'd do the exact same thing. I have never used the FEMA ignition port. I've used nothing but my own designed ignition port, clear into the center of the burn tube, and it fires right up every time. It's simply amazing, and I would recommend anybody who wants to build one of these, try it. But definitely don't leave out the FEMA, the ignition port that the plans call for. I would definitely put that in there just as a redundant safety. You know, for some reason, if this thing doesn't work, you still have one that's, according to the plans, that's going to work. So that's about it for the main gasifier body. I mean, it's probably the lengthiest part of, well, it is the lengthiest part of the entire build. The main gasifier itself. Everything after that is pretty simple. You can have legs if you want legs. You don't have to. Clean-out port. That can be anything in the world that you want it to be, really. Originally, I was going to use a piece of 4-inch pipe with a 4-inch pipe cap. The problem is, even with discounts through my suppliers at work, I couldn't get the pipe cap for less than $40, and I couldn't get a 4-inch pipe nipple, 5 inches long, for less than $45. So there would have been almost $100 in my clean-out, and that was unacceptable. So I built my clean-out. It's just a piece of the same 4-inch pipe that the burn tube is, and a couple of pieces of 1/2-inch plate that I just cut and made flanges out of. But I've seen people use all sorts of things for a clean-out port. Sometimes I've seen them use, if you had a clamp-on lid, like my sawdust bucket, I've seen them build this gasifier upside down with the lid on the bottom. So they just pull a quick disconnect and the whole bottom falls out, and all of the biochar and things fall right out the bottom. I've seen them do that. I've seen people use, for instance, sorry, I'm going to disappear out of the video, ammo cans. There's a couple of guys that have used ammo cans. They have a nice, nice hinge setup, a nice latch setup with a rubber seal. The people that did use these ended up using a piece of rope, like fireplace seal around them. But, I've seen them use these ammo cans. They'll cut a hole in the side, recess it in, and weld it out. I really considered doing that for a clean-out because it's such a large clean-out. But in the end, I decided against it because this barrel material is very thin. I'm an experienced welder. I have quite a bit of experience in fabricating. And this barrel, I'm not going to lie, was tough to weld. It's very, very thin. And, even in the FEMA plans, they stress do not weld if you're going to use one of these. Of course, the FEMA plans came out in the mid-'80s, and wire feed welders were still in their infancy. So most everything that was around then was stick weld. And again, this can be welded. I did it. I have a little Miller 110 wire feed running solid core 023 wire with a steel mix gas. And it was difficult. I drilled a lot of holes on accident, and I came back, and of course, you know, first pass was just tiny little tacks, just bzz, 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 until I got a full bead all the way around every one of these surfaces. The second pass, you can run nonstop and a lot hotter because now you've applied a thicker material to weld to from your first pass. So a lot of people braze, which I don't have a whole lot of experience in. I'm sure the thinner you get, the more I recommend brazing. But welding worked really good on this one. So again, you can have legs if you want. You can set it on the floor if you want. You can have a clean out if you want. Some people make this top plate. They make a second top ring, and this will actually bolt down. I didn't do that on mine. It would be a good idea if you weren't using this solid port, because this one is actually welded to the drum and the gas tube. It's kind of locked everything together. If you were using the standard ignition port, by all means, you know, go ahead and make this top bolt down so you can remove it, so you can take it out if something breaks. I built everything inside my gasifier incredibly overkill. So, you know, by the time something in there breaks, I'm sure the drum would have rotted out and thrown away by then. So, there is kind of my explanation of how I built mine, things I changed, why I changed them. Again, I'm really happy with deciding to change my ignition port. I would recommend that. Feel free to comment, ask questions. I'm no professional. I definitely don't know it all. I just know what I did, why I did it, and whether or not it worked. So again, feel free to ask questions, and please rate and comment.